What do Falcons do? Rise up. Welcome to Rise Up Reactions, the show where we talk all things Falcons, NFL, Georgia sports, and in general, the sports news of the day. I'm your host, Dr. Lee Denning, the Golden Hard Dog, and a lifelong sports fan. So, today, just real quick, before we jump into the preview for the Falcons hosting Carolina Panthers division rivalry game, did want to say the Detroit Lions found a way to win last night. I'm not going to say they completely earned the win. They had a couple of things that probably should not have gone their way. They did lose a fumble in the red zone, which Kansas City turned into a touchdown. Kansas City, though, has proven that without Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, it just doesn't work like he should. Without a veteran receiver and without Travis Kelce, I should say. Every receiver on that team has been on that team less than 2 years or is a less than 2 year veteran in the NFL. So, again, they have a little bit of trouble ahead of them, and I'll talk about that more as we go into next week's picks. But let's real quick go into the Falcons versus the Panthers. Now, Falcons, we are going to be without Jeff Okudah, and we're going to be without our Joker, Cordell Patterson. Most likely. They're both listed as questionable, but I don't see either one of them playing. And then Carolina Panthers, their injury report, they have DJ Shark, Adam Thielen, and Terrace Marshall, so basically their entire fracking receiving core, all listed as questionable as of yesterday. I assume at least 2 of those 3 will see the field because I can't imagine a world where they don't. Most of those, particularly Adam Thielen is most likely, and DJ Shark, they're most likely just veteran, aging, rest days. Questionable, they're probably going to hold questionable statuses the entire season. But with the Falcons, you have Desmond Ridder finally taking over and showing if he can be a leader or not. Now, there was a big deal made earlier this week that Desmond Ridder was not named a team captain along with guys like Grady Jarrett, Jesse Bates, Younghoe Koo, and a few others. I can't remember the others. There's 2 more in there that made a ton of Chris Lindstrom. Oh, and Jake Matthews. All of those make sense. They're guys that have been on the team a long time. They are veterans, except for Jesse Bates, but he was a leader, a captain in Cincinnati, and it makes sense that we brought him in as a star player and as a leader to our safety room. So it makes sense that he would be a captain because he has the NFL experience. Desmond Ridder, if he wins this year, if he shows that he can be a leader of men, I imagine Younghoe Koo would probably lose his captainship, and you would end up giving that to Desmond Ridder next year. But that's really a minor story. Desmond Ridder is functionally a rookie for all intents and purposes. He played 4 games last year, turned the ball over 0 times through the air. I think he had 2 touchdowns, if I remember, in the Tampa Bay game, but I don't think he had any leading into that game. But he did what he needed to do to protect the ball. The preseason, I wish we could have seen him more, but it is what it is. We're going to be rolling out with some new toys and Bijan Robinson. We got a 1-2 punch with him and Tyler Algier. We will be possibly missing Patterson here, so we are going to be limited to just those 2 guys. But we also have other guys at receiver that could potentially slot in there if we needed to in some capacity. Keith Smith at the fullback position is still there. And honestly, this is where I wish we had Godwin Igwebuike, not just on our practice squad, but on the team, so that I felt a little bit better about our depth chart at running back. But again, everybody should be healthy. We have an offensive line in Jake Matthews, Matthew Bergeron, Drew Dahlman, Chris Lindstrom, and Caleb McGarry. Caleb McGarry, I know we paid him. I know he had a great year in the run game last year. He is still a wild card for me, and so is Bergeron, the guy we took in the 2nd round this year. If both of those guys are cohesive with the unit that we've been building, then we're going to have a solid rushing year. Passing, we may be kind of in that middle tier for offensive line, but we should be a top 5 rushing unit. Now, what are we going to do with our run game? We've also got some passing options in Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Mac Hollins, Scotty Miller, and Cardell Hodge, but we are going to be a run-heavy team. We are probably going to run the ball at least 35 to 40 times a game between the 2 running backs, 3 when we have all of them healthy. That's how we're going to win, is control time of possession, keep the score low, and run it down their throats and beat the defense into a pulp. Just absolutely wear them out. That is the game plan all year long. And we have done a lot to beef up our defense as well to kind of help keep games close and manageable. Talk about the defense in just a moment. But let's real quick talk about Ridder. What are the keys to success for this game? Does Ritter have a solid completion rate? Does he keep from turning the ball over? And can he find a connection with Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Matt Collins? I think he and Matt Collins are going to end up being an amazing connection. If you took them in best ball formats, I think if Matt Collins was your 18th to 20th round wide receiver, you are going to be pleasantly surprised at your ROI on that. But again, that's just my thoughts on the Ritter connection there, with Matt Collins having seen just a little bit of it in the preseason. And then, of course, Drake London, I think he could be a good ROI. I think he'll probably have about that 75 receptions when it's all said and done. And Kyle Pitts, if he's anywhere near 60 to 70 receptions with close to 1,000 yards and some touchdowns, I would say that he's had a good return to form year as well. Hopefully they have more than 1,000 yards. But again, we're going to be a run-heavy team, so it's really going to be hard to gauge that. It would not shock me if we come out firing with play-action passes and more passing than running, and then later on in the game, moving on to more of a run-heavy offense. Now, let's move on to the defense. We have spent a ton of money. We really didn't draft a lot of defense, other than we did bring in some guys like Zach Harrison. And then we also were able to get in the 4th round, kind of a steal with the Clark Phillips III, a guy that I kind of have a little bit of a man crush on here and who may see some time here. But we brought in Calais Campbell, who's probably one of the bigger names for a 1-year deal. He's long in the tooth, but he is a big man. He has been doing it for a long time, and he is a veteran player that brings leadership. He chose to come to Atlanta, which means something. He's going to be playing at left defensive end. We have David Onyemata starting at nose tackle. We brought him in from the Saints. Again, we also brought Ryan Nielsen before we even got him, and Ryan Nielsen was a major player in bringing some of the Saints players over too, some of the ones who had maybe a little bit more of an impact than we give credit for. David Onyemata being a guy who can help bring Ryan Nielsen's defensive scheme to the Falcons and be a veteran leader in that regard. Brady Jarrett playing at the right defensive end. No surprise here. He has been the leader of this team. He's a captain. This has been his defense for several years now, and he finally has some help. We're going to be playing with weak linebacker Arnold Ebiketie. We're going to be playing with the SLB linebacker with Bud Dupree. We're going to be playing right inside linebacker Caden Ellis, also a guy that we brought in from the Saints. Bud Dupree, a guy who's getting a little bit long in the tooth, but we brought in from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both of those guys have had good years. Caden Ellis has been kind of a hidden gem on the Saints special teams, having finally gotten his shot last year when enough players went down and enough injuries happened where he was able to do just, 8 sacks in the course of 11 games, I think, last year as a starter. So he's looked great. He looked like a man on fire in the preseason. Troy Anderson is going to be the wild card of this defense. And what I mean by that is the wild card of, is he going to be good or is he going to be garbage? And I don't know the answer to that because he didn't play particularly well last year, but the defense, or our defense coordinator and Arthur Smith, they see enough in him to give him the reins and to get rid of Michael Walker basically after preseason week number 3. So Michael Walker is gone. It's the Troy Anderson, Caden Ellis show at middle linebacker. You got A.J. Terrell and Jeff Okudah, when he's healthy, will be our corners. Richie Grant's going to be the strong safety, and the free safety is going to be Jesse Bates, a guy that we brought in again from Cincinnati. There's a lot of talent here. We have been an absolute porous defense for the last few years. We have a new coordinator. It's no longer the Peas offense, or defense rather. It is time to move on from that. And I think we can definitely do that. So I look for this to be a punch in the mouth to the Carolina Panthers. Now, the Carolina Panthers, I'm not going to talk a whole lot about them. I think the Falcons are going to win this game. But the Carolina Panthers, it's all going to depend on if Bryce Young can take a step forward. They've lost both of their running backs from last year. Foreman's gone. McCaffrey got traded. So they're going to be playing with Miles Sanders, who had a good year in Philadelphia, but was let go in favor of DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny, which to me does not seem like a good look. I would have put him above both of those guys in the recent past, even with DeAndre Swift being a Georgia Bulldog. I think Miles Sanders has proven to be a little bit more talented here. But again, it just really depends on how this goes. It's going to be a matter of, are these aging receivers that they brought in, because they've also lost DJ Moore, are these aging receivers able to connect with the young buck in Bryce Young? They trade away their future to get him because they believe he is the future. I don't know if that's the case. He definitely seems to be one of the most NFL-ready guys. Their offensive line, I would have said, was better, but again, does not appear to have done very well in the preseason, but again, just preseason football. And then you also have their defense. Their defense is pretty much a solid unit. You've got Burns leading that defensive unit. You've got a defense that would have been considered young 2 years ago and now is full of veteran starters that have shown to be a top 10 to 15 unit in the league. So these are guys that I do look to have a big impact, and it's probably going to be a low-scoring affair. I'm going to go ahead and predict that the Falcons will find a way to get a turnover. They're going to cause some pressure against a rookie quarterback, and they are going to find a way to win this game, and it's going to be 23-14. With that 14, I think we're going to be solidly in command going into the fourth quarter, and they find a way to get like a garbage time touchdown to make the score look closer. But I do think it's probably going to be 23-7 for going into the fourth quarter or going into the last minutes of the game, and then get to 23-14 towards the end. Again, fairly low-scoring affair overall by NFL standards. Very similar to last night's game. Nobody thought that was going to be a low-scoring affair, but that's just what I think. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I will be at this game. My section is 341 up there, just like right in the middle, closer to the front. So if you guys happen to see me, give a shout out. I will probably be wearing a new shirt that I got from Homage, which is a company that does a lot of old school logos. I don't have a sponsorship with them. I just really like their shirts. I think they're good quality. But I'll be wearing kind of a red old Falcons. Either that or I'll be wearing a Falcon shirt similar to the one I've got on, but it'll be the one that my wife bought me that also has my channel name on the back. Feel free to say hello. If you have not already subscribed, please do so. I'm trying to hit 500 by the end of the 2023 season. Thank you to the 161 who have already done so. You guys mean the world to me and are keeping me going so far. Probably going to live stream some games as we get going into the season here. But that's just what I got for you today. Falcons over the Carolina Panthers in a good defensive showing, and the Falcons coming out and being cohesive on offense. But that's all I got. Thank you for watching, liking, sharing, subscribing, and as always, rise up.